Hello, good evening, everyone, and warm welcome to the Friday edition of Business Live. Coming up in our headlines, some savings and loans companies hit by panic withdrawals due to uncertainties surrounding debt exchange program.
They are rushing to take their deposits. And unfortunately, those who are also owing the banking institutions are defaulting on their loans. And so we think that we have not gotten to the point where we should be experiencing this.
Insurance companies warn of industry collapse if debt exchange program is implemented in its current structure.
Any debt exchange will negatively affect our ability to pay claims and lead to asset liability mismatch. This will negatively affect the planned cash flow of insurance companies.
Also in this bulletin, the Economic Enclave project for food production takes off. We will hear from the Chief of Staff, who has been touring some parts of the farmlands in the Greater Accra region.
The current challenges and devastating impact on the economy and households actually affirm the need to build on even more wiser Ghana, be reducing imports and producing locally.
We have details of these and many others lined up for you. Please stay on. And those were your commodities updates. I am Pious Kojo Backah, and look now at our stories. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has revealed that the country is likely to reach an IMF staff-level agreement next week. But what is the basis for the minister's optimism? Here's more.
According to the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, this is based on some significant progress made when it comes to restructuring the country's debt stock. The minister also argues that they have come very far when it comes to meeting some of the preconditions that are needed before a country can secure an IMF staff deal. The finance minister also noted that the IMF is kind of satisfied with the work done so far by government in trying to stabilize the economy and deal with the debt concerns. On the current opposition to the deal by organized labor, the Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta noted that government is committed to engaging all the groups to address their concerns before the program takes off from December 19, 2022. The minister also told Joy Business that government is committed to taking some extra measures to help bring government's expenditure under control. Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta also disclosed that government is working with the World Bank to review some of the country's flagship programs.
Now, some savings and loans companies in the country have been hit by the panic withdrawals. Now, according to Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies, the situation is due to uncertainties surrounding government's proposed debt exchange program. Pious Kojo Backah is the executive secretary and has been speaking on PM Express Business Edition.
What is very worrying now is that we have not gotten to any imaginative point where financial institutions like banking institutions are saying that they have this kind of challenge. However, depositors are rushing to taking their fixed deposits.
Is that the situation? And sorry to cut you in. Is that the situation now?
Yes, those who don't understand what's happening.
There's a rush or a run to liquidate their fixed deposits.
They are rushing. Yes, they are rushing to take their deposits. And unfortunately, those who are also owing the banking institutions are defaulting on their loans. And so we think that we have not gotten to the point where we should be experiencing this. And therefore, we all need to support the system. And as I said from the beginning, doing nothing is not an alternative. We all need to take pragmatic steps to protecting the financial sector. And I always say, if your banking sector or your financial sector is weak, then your whole economy will crash. And therefore, we all need to take steps that will protect the sanctity of the financial sector.
A while longer on the debt exchange program and more troubles for government as Ghana Insurance Association seeks exemption from the debt restructuring program. Now, the group says anything short of that will be a disaster for the country as there will be no insurance company. Ghana Insurance Association is making underwriting losses overall and deeply relying on investment income to meet its claim obligations to policyholders. Thus, any exchange or debt exchange will negatively affect their inability to pay claims and lead asset-liability mismatch. Now, the president of the association, Seth Aklasi, tells the media the effect of debt restructuring will be so devastating that there will not be an insurance industry after surmounting the economic challenges.
Effectively, if you total our gross written premium for both the life and the non-life sector, we're having 4.5 billion as a gross written premium. We get about 805 million Ghana cedis as investment income. We are making a loss of 356 million Ghana cedis. So we are only able to pay claims from the investment income. Since the industry is making underwriting losses overall, it means that insurance companies rely on investment income to meet their claim obligations to policyholders. Therefore, any debt exchange will negatively affect our ability to pay claims and lead to asset-liability mismatch. This will negatively affect the planned cash flow of insurance companies, hence our inability to meet our financial obligations to policyholders as they fall due. And it is to be noted that these obligations are daily. As we speak now, I'm sure there are people lodging claims with the insurance companies. Taking into consideration the fact that insurance companies are making underwriting losses, the effect will be so devastating that there will not be an insurance industry after we surmount the economic challenges.
Now, the group is also calling for an exemption whilst urging government to pay insurance companies their locked-up funds in banks and other institutions which were part of the banking sector cleanup.
Our position on Ghana's domestic debt exchange is that, in light of these issues that I've just put out, the accrued interest on government of Ghana bonds should be paid to insurance companies to enable them pay claims that have already crystallized. Insurance companies must be exempted from the domestic debt exchange. In uncertain times like this, entities must protect their assets through insurance, which is a key risk management tool. Anything short of an exemption will have far-reaching consequences for the insurance industry and the important role they play in protecting assets and liabilities of this country. This will also discourage the citizenry from taking up life and annuity policies. Insurance has been identified as one of the important tools for increasing financial inclusion from the current 58% to 75% by the year 2023. There must therefore be actions of government that repose confidence in insurance. This is important to help formalize the informal sector, which constitutes over 80% of the Ghanaian workforce. Finally, some insurance companies have their funds locked up in banks and other institutions which were part of the banking cleanup. Government should ensure release of these funds to the insurance companies concerned. This will help improve the liquidity position of the companies. In the absence of the foregoing, the insurance and reinsurance companies will be happy to cede or transfer all our claims to the stabilization fund that they have announced.
Moving on to some other stories, the Bank of Ghana is attributing the cedi's recent stability to improved dollar support and other monetary measures. The cedi's rate of depreciation has slowed significantly over the past 2 weeks. It is currently being sold around 12 cedis 80 pesos. Head of Financial Markets at the Bank of Ghana, Stephen Opata, however, maintains that more needs to be done to sustain the cedi's good run.
Started the program, we've bought about 70,000 ounces. We are projecting to, by the end of the year, we'll have bought about, I think, about 150,000 ounces. Since we started, before we started this program, we had 280,000 ounces. And already we'll have bought 170,000 ounces. If you do the numbers, this is quite huge. Yeah, so far it's helping to build our reserves. You can calculate the numbers by multiplying the 170,000 ounces by, say, 1,600 per ounce. And you see that already it's beginning to impact our reserves.
Let's come back to meeting the reserve or the FX positions of these commercial banks as well. How is the bank managing it in the midst of the current pressure on your reserves?
Well, what we've been doing is prioritizing our areas that we support. And for now, the key area we are supporting is the BDC auction. Currently, every month, we are spending $120 million on all imports for the BDCs, which we think is significant. But apart from that, there are certain sectors that we have prioritized, that these are the areas that can get the economy going, such as pharmaceuticals, such as certain areas to support the construction industry, key sectors. We've also indicated that there are certain sectors that we are not going to provide commodities FS for, because we think that we must support production of those areas. So the key sectors we are providing support: pharmaceuticals, absolutely, airline industries, to make sure there's good movement of goods and services. We are supporting the construction industry, clinker for cement, and all those things are being supported. But it's just that we are prioritizing our needs so that we can also conserve funds.
You've not stopped anybody from bringing in rice or direct any banks to stop providing FS cover?
The governor has said it, that we will not provide FS to support those items we mentioned. But as far as we are aware, there's not a ban on the importation of rice. If you can get the FS from other sources in the economy, that has not been banned. But I know that the strategy is that eventually we have to enhance domestic production so that the areas where we can produce ourselves, we are producing and not depending on imports for that.
We've seen some marginal, strong stability on the market compared to the recent pressure that we've seen some 3 weeks ago. What is accounting for? Is it that we've seen the Bank of Ghana being more present on the market, or what is the issue?
Well, one is that we have provided sustained support for critical sectors of the economy. We've also tried to manage the liquidity, CD liquidity in the system, so that people are not using that CDs to chase dollars. And also you can see that monetary policy continues to be tight. As we've seen, we signaled by increasing the policy rate so that CD-denominated assets, for those that are still holding CDs, are able to use it to buy Government of Ghana paper, even though with all these concerns about debt structuring. At least on the T-bill side, people are buying T-bills, and that is being successful.
Moving on to some other stories, government has kick-started the Economic Enclave project for food production, which aims at growing staple food for domestic consumption and export. The program, which is supported by the Ministry of Finance and the 48th Engineer Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces, seeks to reduce Ghana's over-dependence on imported food and help in strengthening the local currency. Speaking at the launch of the Enclave, Chief of Staff Akosua Fremont Parry assures of support from the presidency to make the program a success.
The Economic Enclave project is part of the Ghana Cares Obatampa program aimed at reducing the country's food import bill. The site, located in the Shai Osudoku district of Kasunya, is expected to cultivate about 10,000 hectares of rice, maize, and other staples. Chief of Staff Fremont Akosua Parry pledged President Akufo-Addo's full support to the initiative.
In order to transform our economy, the President tasked all ministers to leverage on the opportunity provided by the pandemic and build a wealthy, inclusive, sustainable, empowered, and resilient Ghana, what we term a wiser Ghana. The current challenges and its devastating impact on the economy and households actually affirm the need to build on even more wiser Ghana, be reducing imports and producing locally. In fact, it will be unwise to keep supporting employment elsewhere by importing more when our youth continue to actively look for jobs here.
Finance Minister Kojo Backah applauded the farmers working on the project and expressed confidence that the initiative will enhance the country's food security as well as exporting into the continental free trade area.
To reduce the $1 billion we spent between 2017 and 2021 on rice, while we expanded to rice sufficiency and moved the ratio from the 43% that we produce to more than 100%. And also for the national demand of some 400,000 metric tons of poultry, reverse that trend so that we'll be chicken sufficient and be exporting. And to reduce the 90% of our tomato needs from our neighboring countries and onions, which is estimated to have reached some $400 million a year.
The Millennium Development Corporation and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture are part of the partners for this project.
More in the agri sector, Santihini Otumfuo Seitu II has expressed concern about the country's over-dependence on imported goods, including staples, at the expense of the vast plantation available for local food production. He believes maximizing local farming would reduce the expensive importation of food crops to help save the depreciating cedi and eventually restore the economy. Now, during a courtesy visit by the 2022 National Best Farmer at the Menchia Palace, Otumfuo advised the youth, traditional leaders, and even government officials to venture into farming to foster development in Ghana.
Resources available in Ghana, the country is yet to be self-reliant in its agricultural production as it currently imports food staples including rice and tomatoes. The Asante-Hene bemoans the country's inability to produce some essential crops locally as the youth hunt for white-collar jobs other than pursuing agriculture to boost the economy.
Tomato free baby neighbor. Tomato, you can be neighbor. Ya cram more neighbor. The sacram more neighbor. Ya cram nuani ebedi ebebe efrabon. Yanso I say ahocha basike. Dollar kroya ya kan ya de kra nyina so. Cocoa ne gold yi na ekọ na de aba na se ebro so ade na de beye.
Ghana imports rice, tomatoes and other food items, but we complain of hardship. The money used for importation contributes to the depreciation cedi. If we grow these crops locally, we can improve the economy. The youth nowadays prefer staying at the offices than being on the farm.
And then office. Now I'm directed by.
A delegation from the Jabin Traditional Council, including the 2022 National Best Farmer, Nana Yausrebo's son of Jabin Maihene, paid a courtesy visit to the Menchia Palace. The Asante-Hene, amazed at the achievements of Nana Yausrebo, admonished other traditional leaders to follow in the footsteps of Achempem Hene to take up agriculture in providing a livelihood for their indigents.
Nana Mahini kane konyo bia wo koko na afuo da na konyo ene Nana make cha so ne kuntu kuri ne kumase abonten so na ete.
Every stool has a land allocated to it, but the chiefs prefer to stay in the cities than to farm on these lands. We should emulate this to build our country.
Nana
Yausrebo was adjudged the best national farmer at the 38th Farmers' Day celebration for his extensive production in both mixed crop and livestock farming. With current technological advancements in farming, the 43-year-old mechanical engineer reiterated the urgency for the youth to be involved in farming.
With technological advancement, farming is not the hoe and cutlass method that we used to know, and it's not the small-scale method that we used to know. Farming has really advanced, whereby you can do a lot of things with technology that has come up. So it is good for the youth with the education that they have to get themselves involved. And also, as you can see, we have to phase out the aged, you see, and because without farming, without agriculture, as a nation, we cannot survive.
For Joy News, Emmanuel Bright-Kweku reporting.
You're still watching Business Live here on the Joy News channel with me, Pious Kojo Backah. We continue with the rest of our stories. An acting Northern Regional Director for Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Hawa Musa, has indicated that it is high time a standard pricing scheme is established to regulate the cereal and soya value chain. This follows a memorandum issued by the Ghana Revenue Authority to its customs division in the northern region to enforce a ban on exportation of grains and cereals. According to her, farmers will keep selling to foreigners until they are given a fair price for their produce.
In May this year, the government extended a ban on the export of some grains and cereals to ensure food security as Russia's war with Ukraine disrupted global food supply chains. The ban, which took effect in September 2021, was due to expire at the end of March, but was extended to September 2022. However, value chain actors continue to lament about the invasion of foreigners. Acting Northern Regional Director for the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Hawa Musa, says the solution to address this is to implement a standard pricing scheme.
The ministry gave a communique on it this year, but I know it wasn't time for harvesting yet, especially the parts of the northern Ghana. And now that we are seriously harvesting, October, November, December, we realize that yes, on the market we can't even track some of the food stuff because of people, Ghana not positioning itself to purchase the soya bean at the farm gate. So other people are able to go to the farm gate, negotiate and buy. So I also advise that the government to also do what it can do to mitigate the exportation or illegal smuggling of our food from the country. And the government can do that by offering fair prices to our farmers.
The Executive Secretary for Soya Value Chain Association of Ghana, Yao Efrifa, blames the current challenge along the sector on the lack of communication by government with relevant stakeholders.
We went to governments and advocated that there should be some form of control. The government consulted us in what they should do, and then said fine, they were going to form a committee, and that committee will be looking at the control of the exportation. We realized that between the time the LI was given and even when they started implementation, there were a lot of things that should have been done, but they couldn't do because we realized that those who were working were only looking at regulatory procedures. There were other things that should have been done that were not done, and because the chairman of this committee happens to be the chief director of Ministry of Trade and Industry. So we asked them, what has that chairman got to do with the soya industry? He's a lawmaker or a technocrat. And so we realized that the committee had been formed, but it didn't serve our purpose.
A position paper will soon be presented to government by the association on policy formulation for the sector.
This is Business Live here on the Joy News channel. We are taking a short break. We'll be right back with more. Please stay. Welcome back. You're still watching Business Live with me, Pious Kojo Backah. Two multi-million-dollar projects at the Takoradi Port, the Atlantic Container Terminal, and a dry bulk jetty have been inaugurated by President Akufo-Addo. Well, he assured that government is determined to improve maritime trade and position itself as a major engine of economic growth. There is more in this report.
These interventions will enhance cargo handling capacity, maintenance and repair of ships, and also meet the demands of the riggers of the oil and gas services sector within the Takoradi Port Enclave. Nanano, ladies and gentlemen, since the commencement of operations of the Port of Takoradi in 1928, in the era of the most far-sighted of colonial governors, Sir Frederick Gordon Gettysburg, it has gone through many phases of development to put it in a position to meet the growing maritime trade and oil and gas services sector. Its expansion and transformation have an overarching objective of expanding the Ghanaian economy while boosting trade, regional and international trade.
Now, the Ghana Consulting Engineers Association are unhappy about persistent delays and non-payment of contractors. According to the president of the association, Magnus Leslie Kwashi, this is affecting activities of engineers across the country. Speaking to Joy Business at the 2022 Urban Environment Sustainability Conference, he called for more engagement from government. We shall bring you more on this in our subsequent bulletins. And that's it for Business Live for tonight. I am Pious Kojo Backah. Always a pleasure serving you. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Do enjoy the rest of our programs and have a lovely weekend.